it's funny that like running can be the best thing for me, but it can also be a sort of a crutch. It can also be a sort of coping mechanism.
I think running's a tough one because, I mean, we'll get into it in a moment, but I think it's something that mostly is seen as a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a lot of praise for it. Oh, you're so fit, or you're so disciplined, or how do you do it? But it does have a flip side to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you mentioned at the start the good and the bad. And I think that's part of it is this, you know, there's this kind of notion that exercise, therefore great. But actually there's a bit more to it than just that. You and I know. So yeah.
And I think another one is identity. Like sometimes our identity can get quite wrapped up in the run. And then when you have the stress fracture or have the injury or have something like that can be quite shattering to that identity, you know, illusion. Welcome to another episode of Two Average Runners with Hugh and Alice. Welcome, Alice. How are you today?
Hi, Hugh. Great. How are you doing? We're recording on a Friday for once.
We're recording on a Friday for once, which is a little strange. It's a bit of a roller coaster, but excited. Lots for us to explore today. So let's kick us off today. Where are you at? Like, how is the last week? Last time we spoke, we were in London in person.
Yep.
We podcasted. So how has the time been since? How is life? How is running? What are your ratings?
So I'm going to give my rating about a 7 out of 10 for my running. I continue to obsess about whether I have another stress fracture coming back or not. I'm living on Claude, which I read yesterday. There's about a 49% increased chance of sort of being biased towards you, I think. So now that's really thrown me. But I have decided to book in to see my sports specialist, sports doctor next week. So I'm going to go and see him. But since I've done that, actually, I've had no pain during my runs at all. I just get these weird and vague symptoms between my runs. It makes me quite anxious. I'm constantly concerned something's going on there. So anyway, maybe when we record next time, maybe not. Maybe the following time I will have had a scan and I can report back. But my running is going well. So I've got some injury sort of concerns, but the running itself is going well, although I am discovering that I'm not as fit as I would like. Threshold has definitely dropped a little. I had some tough sessions in the last week, but I think I got up to sort of 95 kilometers last week. So that was good. So I'm building back up. And I've got some pretty big runs this weekend we can chat about. I'm a bit nervous about. It includes a park run, and I hate these shorter distances. It's a park run within a bigger session. So I'm already psyching myself out. How am I going to do on this 5K? So running, yeah, but you know, I'm picking up. Things are going okay and enjoying it, which is good.
Great.
Life, if I'm honest, has been quite a rough patch. So I'm probably going to go down to a 4. You know, I'm trying to be chipper, but if I'm honest, things have been rather tough in the personal life. So that's me. How about you?
How about me? Well, it's a tale of two halves. So we podcasted in person in London, I think on a Friday also.
Yeah.
And then, so that weekend, then I would have rated that running a 9. Over that sort of little stretch. I did an epic. We talked on that last episode about the run to do in London. I pieced it together on a map on Garmin, like you can sort of create a route the night before. And I was so excited about it. And it ended up being, I think, 21 miles. So it was not a short, it was actually at a much quicker clip than I was expecting. I really didn't even look at paces. It was not a pace run. It was, I think I occasionally looked at heart rate just to see it wasn't going crazy. So it was kind of mostly zone 2, as we might call it. It was generally easy, but what was amazing, I toured all the sites of London that it was a trip down memory lane. And it was everything we even talked. I ran past some of the nightclubs I used to go to in the sort of pre-running drinking days. 2 of them are gone, and now like shopping centers. Or office buildings. One of them still exists. Fabric is still there.
I saw the picture on Strava. It had me chuckling.
But I then,
these places always look so dismal from the outside in the broad light of day.
The broad light of day, they look awful,
horrendous.
Like grey and obviously there was no one there, and it was obviously I was up quite early because it's so light in the UK, so it was probably 5-6 a.m. and light, and I ended up running past all 3 of the places I lived in London.
Did you? Wow, that's great.
Which was kind of the first place I ever lived near. Was like near Tower Hill, just like a short-term rental me and my friend did before we moved into an apartment together. The second was this place, the Jam Factory, which was down in Bermondsey. And then the third place was just by Lancaster Gate, where I lived with my friend Ben back in the day. And so I ran past those. I sort of did a real tour of the sites. It was a real, like I hadn't been down Bermondsey Street for a long time. And it was early. So I ran through Borough Market. They're setting up. I ran along the embankment, which was kind of cool. And then I hit all the parks like you kind of suggested. So I went through St. James's Park and Green Park and Hyde Park and Kensington Gardens. And it was just like, I think early on I'd managed to like do a little stint along Regent's Canal and then through Regent's Park. So like I literally, it was kind of a wild one of sort of like shy of Hampstead Heath, and I saw Battersea Power Station from crossing one of the bridges, but I didn't go all the way down to Battersea Park and the actual station. But shy of that, I really don't think I missed anything at all. It was kind of wild. So anyway, I would put that in top 10 lifetime runs.
Yeah, it looked epic when I saw it on Strava. What I actually was chuckling about was I was thinking about the days, I don't know if you ever had this, when you went clubbing and then you come out of the club at sort of 5 or 6 in the morning or whatever time and you're on your way home. And then you see people running. In South Africa, I used to see either people running or people going to the garden center, like getting ready to go garden, And I used to always laugh with my friends, who are these lunatics? Who the hell would be doing this? Why are these people up so early? What is wrong with them? Now you are literally that guy running past at 5 or 6 in the morning.
Yes. Literally that
it just made me laugh,
So it was delightful. It was kind of an interesting, and from a training perspective, I think it ended up because I stopped a lot to take pictures.
Yeah.
So my elapsed time was quite long, and I often stopped and I soaked in, I looked at the place and I thought about my, feelings and memories and all these kind of things. But it was also, I wasn't running that hard, throughout, but it was like a mini interval workout. It was like like the most relaxed fartlek you can imagine, because then in between places, I was usually full of energy and excitement, and I was having these micro rests. So I never, ever felt like sustained tired from running from running sort of zone 3 for a while or something. Like it was a very, like an effortless run. And again, it was sunny and it was cool. And I had like some gels and stuff on me, enough to keep me going. So yeah, it was kind of
brilliant.
That was great. That was like the first part, and so I would have given that run like an 8 or 9 out of 10, like 10 for that. And I got a couple other bonus runs in, which were just easy. And it's just like, you forget how neat London is, like running through Little Venice or just lots of exploring. It just quite pleasant. And then for me, then I came back and I just got hit with some, look, you have a partner, you've been married, I've been married before, like marriage is hard, life with kids is hard. I'd be lying if it said everything's smooth sailing, because it's not. And so, things that had a bit of a rough week then on return. And I got quite surprised by a lot of stuff in that. And it just caused a lot of self-reflection. And I think for this podcast and us, it's sort of realizing the, sort of the good and bad of running, if that makes sense. And maybe that's a bit too harsh, but it's like, look, you and I, we've had some wild times. We talked about those nightclub days, and, we don't drink and party crazy and have sort of really unhealthy vices. But just like anyone, we're flawed human beings. And it's funny that like running can be the best thing for me, but it can also be a sort of a crutch. It can also be something that I sort of, it's a coping mechanism. So yeah, Marie, so that was kind of so it was a very, for this pod and for us, it was a kind of, since then, so I'd say from a family perspective, I think I'm like a 3 out of 10, 2 or 3 out of 10.
Yeah, it sucks. I'm sorry to hear that.
And then from a running perspective, since I think I'm from a training perspective, a 4 out of 10, right? Because but it's been kind of interesting because I just shifted this past week where like so often get in the morning running, because we both typically run in the morning, kind of like is the structures the day, and that's can be good and bad. And so this past week, then I have not. So I've done other things like, whether it's prioritizing the family or, doing something different, or, just reflecting, taking the time not to go out and run and sort of like distract or, just sort of like run it out, so to speak. I just actually, woke up and drank coffee and sat and sort of reflected on what I'm going to do that day and what's going on in life. And what's been interesting then is that I have then often gone for a run a bit more as a like reward or later in the day. which has been kind of interesting. Sort of like, okay, I've done something, I put some other things first, and I've done some things that are, are important, for me and the family, and sort of. And then it's like, oh, and now I have a window, and now it makes, that makes sense. It's
Now
almost a
I'll
little
go.
celebration, a little reward, as opposed to like, hey, I wake up and just going to go and run, and like, because that sort of,
That's
and almost
what I
at
do.
times, yeah, that's what I do. And sometimes I use up some of the best energy of the day on the run, which generally makes I feel good throughout the day. But sometimes it's like, getting the order of priorities a little off.
Yeah.
So
I think running's a tough one because,
yeah.
I mean, we'll get into it in a moment, but I think it's something that mostly is seen as a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a lot of praise for it. Oh, you're so fit, or you're so disciplined, or how do you do it? But it does have a flip side to it.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned at the start the good and the bad. And I think that's part of it is this, there's this kind of notion that exercise, therefore great. But actually there's a bit more to it than just that. You and I know. So yeah, I thought I would just reflect on that.
But it's sort of interesting. So I thought we could talk a bit more about that. I don't know where you want to go with the conversation here, but like your experience and my experience with sort of running and being both the good and the bad. And I think another one is identity. Like sometimes a bit less time this time, but sometimes our identity can get quite wrapped up in the running. And then when we have the stress fracture or have the injury or have something like that can be quite shattering to that identity, illusion. So,
yeah.
Where do you want to go?
Do you want to dive into that now, or any other things that you wanted to share this week?
I mean, that's that's really the week update. Sort of it's been a sort of a little reset of running, just getting what I can in where. And then I think this next week we'll be getting into a bit more of a consistent routine, even if that routine looks a little different. But this past week, I feel like that since coming back from London has been sort of very sort of ad hoc.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that things are so tough. Maybe we dive a little bit in a moment into the good and the bad for us, what we experience. But I thought just as on a lighter note before we get into that, since I raised the track last week,
oh yes,
I did have some thoughts. I thought, am I being too judgmental, or, what's got into me? And I went down to my track to do what did I do this week? Some 1 kilometer repeats, just that sort of joyous kind of session. And it was actually also very hot. I think London hit 37 or 38 degrees. So I went down quite early. I was there before 7 and everybody had the same idea. It was quite busy, but I saw that there are actually track etiquettes. There's a sign with track etiquette, which I'd never seen before. And you're quite right. Lanes 1, 2, and maybe 3 clockwise, counter.
Yeah.
What is it?
Counterclockwise.
Which way is it? Counterclockwise. Outer lanes, you can go in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So that is actually track etiquette. What I will say is I don't think you can go in reverse and do Tai Chi. Like I don't think you could walk backwards and do Tai Chi in the wrong direction, in the wrong lane. So I think I was right on that. Like those people doing that are not okay. And then I have to own up that it was hot, and I normally wear sort of a small top and shorts, but I actually took and I went more for the crop top, which a lot of girls do. But I did think afterwards I was a bit judgmental because girls are running in crop tops and sort of cut off kind of almost like sports bra type tops and shorts. So why can't guys take their shirts off? I think I just got in my head that sometimes it feels like guys are taking their shirts off when it's not required. But anyway, this week, everybody was stripped down to the least possible things that they could because we were all sweating so much. So I will take it back. I'll make a public apology that I think on track, if it's hot, you can take your shirt off. And you can go in the other direction, but just don't be doing anything too weird. And
I think
face forwards.
The Tai Chi thing seems a bit weird. They're doing something where you're sort of facing forward seems important either way, because then
important.
You can be aware
you can't, exactly. So I think that one I win, but everything else, I was wrong.
And it's like, it reminds me, I've thought about this a lot on the track, where it's like, reminds me a bit of skiing, which is like, if you're going down, you're like, there's sort of the two, I'm not a formal skier and this might not be the exact correct rules, but it's like, if you're coming behind, like it's your job to like see who's in front and like navigate, like see where they're going, like, but at the same time, you're like, there is a sensible thing of like, hey, be sensible if you're there, that you're not like jumping out, making rapid turns or looking behind you to see what's happening and who's coming. And I feel like that on the track as well. It's like, I think an important thing for people is like, you have every right to be on the track as the next person and the most elite person. I think that those rules of like what the sort of 1, 2, 3, it seems to be like the fastest the inside. So like if you're going a bit slower, you can maybe run in lane 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But when you're there, like own the lane. Like I have fast people and they'll just come past me, and as long as you're actually sticking in your lane and not do anything weird,
I think that's
they
fine,
can move around you quite quickly. It's the people, like you said, who are going backwards, who can't even see where they're going, or like, doing weird shit.
There are some questionable things going on down at Paddington Rec, but and not just only on the track. But I do actually enjoy it going down to track. It is quite fun to see what's going on.
Running in the heat, that's like what we deal with this all the time.
Actually, I've did some bigger sessions in the heat on the weekend in Battersea Park, which is a bit of a trek for me. So I started a bit late. I actually quite like the addition of the heat for a bit of suffering. I quite enjoy it. But boy, you do get much thirstier, your heart rate's up. So I quite like it. And I also know that there is benefit to it.
Oh, yeah.
But then there are some mornings this week that I've gone out a little bit extra early, also because I need to walk my dog, and my poor fluffy golden retriever dog has been huffing and puffing in the heat. So I either need to walk him first and then run, so then I'm hotter, or I need to go extra early and then walk him so that he's not going out in the heat. But otherwise, he's enjoying my Zwift setup. I've got that big fan, the Zwift fan and aircon, and I position him between my Zwift fan and my aircon, and he's you can see his hair blowing in the breeze. So yes, London's had the heat stroke. You know what it's like in the UK. We have any heat and everyone's complaining. But yeah, so definitely quite a difference. But I'm actually enjoying it. And tomorrow, I've made the mistake of telling my coach, I really need to get some practice in on these races for shorter distances. And because she's Olympic triathlete, but for that Olympic distance, I think it's the shorter distances. She's really good at 5 and 10K. She's very powerful. So she's like, oh, okay, great. So next 3 weekends, what we're going to do is just wrap a 5K park run into your sessions.
I think that's great.
But I've got to do warm up, park run into half an hour at marathon pace, like another thing and another interval, I think, at marathon pace. And then I've got the reverse the next 2 weekends. She's just put it all into Training Peaks. I'm doing sort of warm up, some lengthy marathon pace stuff, and then into park run. I've only run one 5K race in my life, and now I've got 3 in a row the next 2 weekends, and I'm absolutely dreading it. I'm sure it's going to be terrible. But anyway, so that's me tomorrow morning.
That's really interesting. I mean, I think anytime if you did a park run anyway, you would want to warm up properly. If you're going to run a 5K, you should warm up. And if you're running a 5K hard, you should probably warm down. So I think it's a great way. I would almost say for me, it was like almost easier than, say you did a workout and it was like 5 by 1K at 5K pace, right? Say that was the workout, right? I almost think that like this is an easier one because it's like you do the warm up and you're there and then you got a race and you focus on the race. It's almost like
I hope it's easier because I did 6 times 1K at 5K pace on the track this week, and that was fine. But I am telling you, I think I'm going to tank. But anyway, let's see. I'm going to try and have a positive attitude.
Yeah,
What would you rather do? 5K and then into your marathon pace, or marathon pace and then into the 5K?
I know what I'd rather do, which is the 5K into marathon pace.
First. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And then there's the sort of training theory there, which is like a lot of the elite marathoning talk about this sort of doing some kind of hard interval, sort of hard workout, and then running steady after it. So like the marathon pace ready, steady running, because then you're going to shuttle a lot of the lactate. The legs are already slightly tired, and it's like you can get.
It's almost making it like you've already run quite a bit of the marathon.
Yeah, and it also it makes the run play longer. So a lot of the trail runs on the sort of the Roaches plans that I've used over the last couple of years will often have something like a 30-minute hard or something in the first, like do a warm up for like 20, 30 minutes on trail. And then it's like, 30 minutes hard, and it might obviously be over rolling terrain, and then run maybe some form of steady or they call it easy mod because your heart rate can go up on the hills, you can recover a bit on some downs. But the point is like, it makes the run feel longer. You could do a 2-hour run that feels like a 3-hour run or a 4-hour run because like you said, because it's like, and it will feel like it's dragging on more because like you had this hard bit. The interesting thing about the other way, I've had like, there's two different schools of thoughts on that one. So how do you think about the other way, like doing some marathon effort?
Well, she wants me to do that so that I know what it like, because the perceived rate of exertion is going to be much tougher. And that's kind of like simulating the end of a race.
Mm-hmm.
So she's quite keen for me to try and push hard. You kind of put yourself in the bin on that one and kind of go for it because you've done your marathon pace block, but it's going to be harder. So I'm going to share with you guys over the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I might be brave. I'll think about it, but I'll maybe share the 5K times. And because there's a bit of me that wonders that if I'm going to be faster after the marathon pace, because I'm even more warmed up and I'm just going to be blasting it because I've got nothing to do after that. So I'm wondering if the third week is going to be the best week because it's park run, marathon block, then the next week, marathon block, park run, then the following week, marathon, park run. So I've got 3 weeks to see how I do.
So the second and third week are the same marathon?
Yeah.
So I think I think the psychological is really powerful with the second one you described. So you're running pretty steady. Which is not slow. Marathon pace is not slow. Right?
No, I mean I will try and be disciplined and not go too fast and just
especially on that workout.
4:13, because it's half an hour. So you're like,
but it's like so you could be nicely warmed up. I think the good thing is like there's two different things. So like. There is this argument of doing something really hard at the end of a long run. And this is particularly in the trail ultra, it's this sort of like maybe doing 4 by 45 second hills hard at the end or doing 5 minutes hard at the end. Yeah. And the idea there is the thinking is training fatigue resistance.
Yeah. Or like progression runs.
Yeah. And clicking into like, really oxidizing carbs late in the run because and to simulate that's what resisting that fatigue late in ultra is part of is a big part of the game. You want to raise your ceiling so you're faster and then not decay as much. The counter is that, which I've heard say as well, is that the risk of doing really hard at the end when you're really tired is that your running economy, you're training poorer running economy. So if you're kind of already spent, now you're running hard, but you're actually still going really slow. So like it feels hard. It's psychologically, I think, good. Your heart rate's high. You have tons of lactate, but you're actually not moving very quickly. And so the risk...
Kind of like how you are in the last 10Ks of a marathon or how one can be.
One can be. And it's, I think it's good for the suffering for the marathon, but you're actually teaching your body to run slower. That's the argument, right? Against it. But I think that's also like, I think that's even more of a case on something like, say you were doing a 3-hour trail long run.
Yeah, that might be different.
Like if you did 30 minutes to an hour hard towards the end, it's going to be shitty, right? So you're going to But that's why they'll often do like a power hour early on and then just like try to now you just run easy, but just try to, you're hanging on.
Yeah.
So I also think
I shall report back.
Fueling and hydration and temperature, I feel like would be a big thing. If the temperatures are cool, I think if it's hot, it's going to be
hot tomorrow, but the next 2 weekends are cooler. So
yeah, that's way better. Because trying to do the 5K because you get, how long would the whole session take, you think? Like an hour and a half?
Yeah, 1 hour 35 or something like that.
Yeah. It's like that heart rate. This is the thing, because it's so hot here all the time, is the heart rate drift is real. So it's like, hey, I'm running the same effort. It feels the same, but my heart rate is just like by the end of the session is drifted
tomorrow
up.
Will be the toughest because the park run is the first part of the run and it's at 9 a.m. So I'll run at Hopper State.
Yeah.
To warm up. Then I'll line up at the thing, then I'll do it, and then I'll still do marathon pace. The next 2 weeks, I'll have to do the main block of the run before 9. So it'll be an earlier start.
Yeah, and the
but
temperature
it's also
might
cooler.
not be cooler. Yeah.
So anyway, we've got lots of different moving parameters, but
that's
there's
exciting.
an experiment that I'll
that's part
pass
of
on to everybody.
for our listeners, remember in one of our second or third episodes, we'd had a listener question about like what experiments we run and things we try.
So we'll see how this
is kind of a cool experiment.
And I'll use Binomio. We'll see how it's going. Yeah. It's all going to be good.
Just so fun
So
to
yeah,
be doing
those
a
are
race
kind of
like
my
that.
updates.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's not fun. This is just about my worst idea. Pure hell. I'm worried I'm not even going to break 20 minutes, but let's see. Let's see.
Interesting. I mean, I think it's an interesting one with heat to take, all bets should be off on heat.
Yeah.
But
And
anyway.
I haven't done much threshold work, so we'll see how we go. But that's it. So should we dive a little bit into the good, bad, and the ugly of running?
Yeah, absolutely. So where should we want to start? So for you, the good, I mean, I think the good thing is like we've talked about all the good things. People know about that.
Yeah.
It's like having some discipline, getting healthy, running each day. There's the endorphins, there's movement, there's being outdoors, there's getting some sunlight. Like,
Yeah,
it's
and
good.
Dale today is telling me, because remember we shared before that he's taken a long time to get back to running after the marathon.
Yes.
And he's back in running now, just doing lots of easy runs and building up his distance. And he said to me today, I'm so happy I'm back running. I feel so much better. I'm thinking more clearly. Yes, I'm so busy at work. I mean, he's crazy busy, but I'm just getting that time out, just giving me the headspace. I'm solving lots of problems, even though I'm so busy and not sleeping as well as I should. And I'm stressed. Boy, I can feel the difference for my brain. Like he's quite a bit of ADHD, but so this kind of getting out, he's like, wow, this is great. So, there's that so many
100%.
people have.
And particularly when this work is stressful as well, I think having a little escape, and look, life can be hard. So having something for yourself, which is good, that is just for you, not for, it's not something you're doing for other people, which like we all do a lot for lots of other people with our kids and our families and friends and work and colleagues and clients and all those things. So it is good to sometimes do, it's something I love it that there's an element of selfish. It's for self.
Yeah.
And I think, to your point, I think just getting that, I think I know for me, I can often deal with the rest of the day and some of the challenges of life. And I think we've talked about this on podcast. I really like the good part of working towards something. It's something to work towards. There's a goal. Yeah. We've learned to hold them somewhat lightly. Like it's not like our whole identity is a disaster if this doesn't go well. But it's like, because we're not professionals, we're not elite, we're not getting paid, but it's something to work towards that we can care about. And so I think having something to care about and work towards and the mastery, I think all that can be good. And then I think also it's like with anything, it can be used as a crutch, right? And I think we can use it in place of other things when it's like, hey, really, I just need to like sit down and reflect on something or have a hard conversation with someone or just take some time to sit on my own or make some notes or journal, like do something. Sometimes there are some other things that might also be helpful, and running can sort of be like the hammer for all the problems, if that makes sense. Yeah. What about you? Yeah. What is where running starts to tip from being good to bad look like for you?
I mean, I just continue to share what Dale, my partner, said. He's also said, because he was like me, married before, he ran a lot of ultras in those days because it's very much the South African running cultures. Everybody goes straight for comrades and two oceans. Those are kind of that, and loads of marathons, and trails are also quite big there. He said, people always say, what you running from?
Yeah.
And actually deep down, you kind of know there is a bit of that.
Yes.
And he used to take quite a lot of heat at home for the amount of time that you'd be out running. So, so I think it's not an uncommon experience actually for people. For me, I think I shared it at the start of our first podcast, why I got into running. And I think I was fairly open about some of it was, first of all, I come from a very active family. Everybody in my family is sporty, active. We've been raised that way. South African school system is that way. You're expected to be on the move. Perhaps to the point some people might outwardly say it's too much. When are you guys ever sitting still and resting? I think sitting still and resting is kind of seen as maybe verging towards lazy, or you need to earn it. Okay. Which is why you get up, you exercise early, you start your day well, and then you've kind of earned what comes later. I think that I've had that sort of mentality when I've been raised, and I don't have a problem with that to a degree, but I definitely got more and more into exercising in general because of burning calories.
Yeah.
So I would play hockey. I would then still go to the gym. I think I said I sort of became, I used to do all the step classes, all the aerobics. I was really into that. I used to do all the weight circuits. University, that was very much a clear pattern. So my whole life, that's been part of it. So, and has been for me quite obsessional. So kind of taking it too far. And I've been guilty of exercising for hours and hours and hours a day. to feel. So it's almost like part of feeling in control. If I do this, it'll lead to that. So if I burn this many calories, and then I will feel a certain way. And then I've ticked that box. I've done what I need to do. So my mentality has often been, I said I'm going to do an hour. Now, if the gym class ends in 55 minutes, now that will throw me. I need to now do 5 more minutes. Okay.
Yeah, wow.
I cannot have a class finish early because we said an hour, it must be an hour. So that's the kind of psychology that I've had for a very long time, and it's run me into lots of problems. So my identity isn't necessarily running because I haven't always run, or I haven't made it outwardly the thing that I do because I haven't been entering events. But definitely Alice is somebody who has always been fit, exercised, pushed herself hard, does different gym classes. That's my identity. If you took that from me, that would be really hard for me.
Yeah.
So for me, what I'm trying to share is there's a bit of an obsessional psychology behind it. And for me, I think it's about control and saying, this is the thing you're doing, now you need to do it. There's no flexibility. It's quite like a rigid thing.
Yeah.
So like if I have a coach, they love it because I think, my coach may listen and say she doesn't love it, but if they set the thing, I do the thing maybe with a bit more. Whereas Dale's like, no, I've done 8 intervals. I'm not doing 10. Forget that. That's enough. I would never do that. So I don't know if any of that resonates with you.
It does. And I've definitely, the running from, that's the thing. What are you running from or running to or running away? I think the identity is really, went a really obsessional phase in 2016, 17 where I ran a lot.
Yeah.
And I think at that one, it was true almost like I'd quit alcohol in 2016. So I was still early in my sobriety journey. If ever there was a period where I feel like I was sort of like addicted to the sort of like, what is it? Is it dopamine we get from running? Serotonin, oxytocin?
All of the above.
All of the above.
All of those, yeah.
What is the word I'm looking for? Endorphins. Yeah, the endorphins, like all that kind of, there was definitely that. I think there was a period back then as well where I was quite, the dopamine of the social media of Strava was played a lot in there. And I remember in that one, I was getting better and faster and people were noticing sort of like the commenting was sort of following it. And that was quite reinforcing. So it was in one way is encouraging and it was, but it was also like, fueling the like, oh, now I'm getting like a lot more.
Now I have to keep going.
Now I have to keep going. And now I want to
got to get
more,
better, faster,
more.
do
I want to
more.
do more and do more. And this time it's felt very different, it's more that like, this is a big part. I do it for it's definitely what I need for my mental health, but it has become some of the rigidity, right? There's I think the third part as well of always wanting to try to get the run out of the way in the morning so it's done, which sometimes isn't always done.
But you do feel better about yourself, right?
You do feel better about yourself, but it does, the thing I'm realizing for me is like, it is taking up like the prime real estate. Like the most valuable, like, because I am more of a morning person, like it's the earliest in the day, the most potential energy of anything. It's taking that slot. And that can be good because it can sometimes set up the day. But I can, as I sort of reflect on it, I can see from myself, but I could see how others, my wife and others could see that like, hey, this seems to be running seems to take the prior, like takes first bite of the apple kind of thing of the day. Even if it's attempted to go early to be back because you're there for, kid wake up time. So I think it's interesting. I think the identity is quite interesting. For me, in the past, I've had real identity wrapped up in it. Now I feel like less. In fact, many ways, this podcast has been a little good as well because it's quite grounding of like, we're just average runners. Like, let's not create any, like, I'm not like get caught in illusions of like, grandeur. And so this past week there's lots going on. So like not running as much hasn't hit me as like, oh my God, I'm a runner, I'm not running. So that's been kind of an interesting sort of a shift right now. But having the identity is so important at times because, that's why I think it's James Clear or whatever with Atomic Habits. The whole idea is like the identity is like almost the ultimate level. Like what do they say? You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems or habits. Like But it's also ultimately the identity is like, what would a runner do? A runner eats healthy. A runner, like, prioritize, like, does, a runner is, flexible and, or whatever it might be, into to deal with adversities as it comes up. And so I think that's both good, because I think you end up doing lots of the, like, having a lot more consistency, doing some of the little things, try not to be perfect, because that's also the enemy. But I think it's an interesting one, how the identity can really play in here.
Yeah. And I think while you're saying that, I was also just thinking, we have so much access to information these days that maybe we wouldn't have had years ago about what does a professional do to train. So I'm busy doing a masterclass that Irish marathon runner Stephen Scullion.
Yes.
He just put out this masterclass, and I'm busy watching through it. And a lot of it's about if what you should do for recovery, sleep, something about nutrition, strength. It's kind of most of the stuff outside of the actual running itself. So we are fed a lot of information about all the things you need to do outside of the running that a pro or top runner would do. And so you want to try and take that on board. But then, as you say, you're not actually a pro runner. So there is this kind of an access to everybody's Stravas and seeing what people are doing. So suddenly everyone's doing double threshold days.
Yeah.
Not everybody is. It's really top runners now suddenly, and the mileage and all of these things. So I think some of it comes from wanting to get better, doing the right things, having access to all this information. But if you are already somebody, which running I think does attract some types of people, or it can.
Yeah.
So if you are already somebody who's a propensity to be a bit rigid, suddenly there are all these things. So for me, even, I'm like, okay, I need to get enough sleep. So now I'm cutting, my evenings are getting shorter so I can get enough sleep. So is that removing me from family time? Then, I need to get my run in. Now, luckily for me, Dale also runs, so we can swap out a bit of the dog walking and things like that. But, like this last weekend, I came back really late from Battersea Park. I think I came back at like 11 or 12, and I've been out all morning, and then he'd been having to do everything in the house because my session was important. I'm not saying it's not important, but it can cut into a huge amount of time. And I'm like, it's in Training Peaks, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. The rigidity is a funny one. And I think that's often the sort of like a trap for the average runners like us. Like,
Exactly.
I think obviously pros can fall really into the trap as well, but I think there's a level where the sort of pro and the sort of the elite performer learns how to listen to their body. I mean, it's fascinating. We were talking recently, a couple of weeks ago, about Cocodona and Rachel Entrekin, who won and beat all the guys and all the women and, set a course record. She doesn't have a coach and she doesn't have a training plan. And Courtney Dauwalter, who all our listeners will know, because she sort of transcended the sport of running and beyond running, doesn't have a coach, doesn't have a strict training plan, does a lot on feel and listening to her body. And it's like everything, this is the thing, the ultimate thing is feel. Can you just go like, hey, I'm going to run a, for these pros, 64-second quarter, right? Lap. Or if you're an average, we're like, okay, how could we run a 90-second 400, or can we run an 80-second 400 or whatever? Could we actually just do it like without watch, like just on feel? Like that's what the best of the best can do, is they sort of dialed in the feel and listening to their body. And I think there's a path towards that, but it's like in the between, we can get caught with the like, well, I don't quite have the feel. But I do want to win and drive. So I'm going to stick to the plan.
Yeah.
And so I think the rigidity is interesting. Yeah.
I think it's also, there's something around it filling time, I think. So I've known a few people with addiction problems, and I've seen them become triathletes, which is, the ultimate sport for taking time. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of training that goes on there.
Yeah.
So, I think if you want to kill a relationship, if you're a triathlete, maybe you must be with another triathlete, I'm thinking. Otherwise, I can't see how it would work. You can sit on your Zwift together. You can, like obsess about your stats together. But I've seen that many times. And then everybody's saying, from alcoholic or drug addict to endurance athlete, but it's no coincidence. So yes, it's great, but there is also a sessional element to it. You take away, and then I sometimes see, and maybe less so spoken about with men, but then the food component can become a big part of it. And then that whole transformation, that whole identity. So I think it's not something that people speak about that often. But I think it's definitely there. And actually more and more on the food front, men are opening up about body dysmorphia, why they've run, they're trying to lose weight. I'm seeing more and more people on social media sharing it, and you're kind of realizing, a lot of these, what I was thinking, naturally athletic, tall, young guys, actually some of them have battled some of these things.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons they got into running in the first place. And they were pushing themselves really hard. And that's not spoken about that often. So I think there's a side to running. I certainly know lots of people in my circles who've had eating disorders and are very good runners, because there's something in that mentality, the rigidity, the plan, the pushing, the perfectionism. And then, of course, you land up with injuries and all of that sort of thing. But there's definitely the side to everybody praising it because you're so fit and you're training so hard, but actually there's also a little bit of a sinister or an unhealthy component to it, for sure.
Yeah, and I think, I think you mentioned a couple of things there which are kind of cool, which is like you and Dale, like you're both runners, you're different. You're taking it you sort of pursue it with bigger goals and more focus and mastery. It's also aligned to where you are in your journey with it. Dale has done a lot before, but he sort of does it for his health, but it's kind of cool. You both have it. So like the fact that you can do runs together and do races together and travel to races, pretty cool. That's been something that's come up with us, is this like, that's not something, I don't feel like I need that in the partner for them to do it, but it definitely makes it challenging. And the triathlon, the amount of training because you got 2 more sports to do, that would just be another level of extreme. But it's like balancing that with your partner and family. It's not easy. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
So there was an interesting thing that came up this week, and I think we shared a bit about it, messaging each other, or at least we'd sharing the sort of posts about it, which sort of ties in. And like, I think for us, the control thing is a big thing here. Like, it's like life is crazy. Life is unpredictable. Life can be stressful. Having some level of control and have something you can work on that's yours is great. And then it has some control. And then the extension, like, if I eat, there are obviously things, if I generally eat, and fuel the work and fuel it so I feel healthy. So I'm not overeating, but I'm also eating enough, but I'm also, trying to get enough sleep. But it's interesting then, like, how it's the slippery slope of how extreme. Like, we both have the watches right now. I'm in the face. So right now, Alice, I'm strained. I've been strained for the last.
Very good.
That's not a good one. I mean,
but that's usually personal stress. Then it drops your HRV and all of
it is
that
personal
stuff.
stress. It says the HRV drop in. So it's like the because I think it still has like some of the performance metrics are still going up. They haven't dropped. My favorite for the watch, like and this is funny for the Garmin people out there, you all know it. Your Garmin hates you.
Unproductive.
That's great. You're training really hard. That's when your load's high.
Actually, I just need to share this, but I had a VO2 max of 65 in December, and it went down to 60. And in all this training, it's only gone to 61. I looked at it today. What is Garmin doing to me? It's just absolutely terrible. Anyway, carry on.
Well,
I thought I would share that.
Well, I once went down the rabbit hole of like, because I was so fed up with the Garmin telling me, because the worst one, if ever you go to altitude, because remember, all Garmin,
really?
it's not measuring VO2. It's not measured in VO2 max at all. It has an algorithm that's trying to predict. So it's a random metric that is supposed to be some proxy of like fitness that is a proxy to VO2 max. And it's really looking at some combination of pace versus heart rate. That's the basic line. So if you go to altitude, your heart rate is different. So every time I've gone to Leadville, and I once did a run up there on a training camp, and everyone was sitting around afterwards. In the space of 2 days, everyone's VO2 max would drop like 5-6 points. Like we're literally.
But then does it go back up? Because mine's not going back up.
It did recover, but slower. Right, slower.
Well,
it's all because it's like I think there's and so there's a hack here. So typically, the sort of on your Garmin, if you're set in for like trail run or ultra run, you can turn off the VO2 max thing, so it's never using that run, because again, trail run, you might be seen slow, but it can't tell you're going up mountains and you're going over rocky terrain. So it's like, so it doesn't even make sense to use the math on trail runs, but you can have it. So I actually have it switched off most of the time because I don't want it to like. Anyway, that's a whole digression. But yeah, I'm on strained. Sometimes it tells me I'm unproductive, and the worst is detraining. That's. I haven't had that. That's a real kick in the groin if you're very.
That's just unnecessary. It can really throw you. Actually, I was looking at my Strava predicteds and my Garmin predicteds today, And then looking at like how brilliant they were for 5, 10s and halves not that long ago. And now what is predicting, and I've got this bloody park run and I'm going to do it. And
Well,
it's
Alice,
just getting in my head.
remember,
I'm
like
prove
all it
this
is a
Garmin wrong.
crappy algorithm, right? Because
But when it's high, then I'm like, oh, this is great.
This is great. No. Yeah, like use it when it's going the right direction. Fantastic.
Yeah,
use it for motivation. But I've noticed as well, because I've done so much, I have not been doing much sort of threshold, zone 3,
it does drop.
any of that. And so my metrics are all off right now because I did so much base building and just a little bit of strides or hill strides.
That's what I'm putting it down to.
And so it's so funny. I did notice when I did more of a thresholdy half marathon-y block on top of a base, it just like, all the numbers came together. It's not representative. But the thing we were going to say, there was a thing that caused a bit of a stir this past week where some bro influencer dude like posted this thing where he said like I had 3 glasses of wine and it destroyed my sleep and my Whoop, and it like took me 5 days to recover, and it was like this total shitstorm of like how bad it was on 3 glasses of wine, and it kind of created a stir because both sides of the aisle chimed in terribly. So all the like all the sort of people who are sober and are a little too attached to it, or like, yeah, drinking is the worst. You should never drink anything. Like, it's extreme. And then all the people who are like, do drink are like, sober people are the most boring losers in the world. And it's all like, and then of course, who writes about it is our dear friend, not really our friend, but we consider him a friend, Steve Magnus, right? Which is the sort of like, this is bullshit. Like, this is performative, right? Sure, there's like alcohol will have negative effects. Sure. And so you may make a choice to be like, hey, I mean, I personally don't drink for more life reasons of like, hey, this is not good for me at all. Or you might not drink when you're doing heavy training or things like that. But it's like having the standard of like, oh, I have this drink and now my watch says me I suck and I have a bad recovery and now I can't do anything. It's like, it's just not real. And he makes a great point. It's like, if you live life like that, then anyone who has a baby should stop training for 2 years. Because for 2 years, your sleep's going to suck.
Totally
your watch is going to tell all the bad things, and yet you can still perform well. And I was thinking about this again with my strength trainer. We were talking about, and he was referencing Michael Jordan. I'm not sure if you know much about Michael Jordan history. There's a very famous the flu game. Have you heard about the flu game? So it was a game where Jordan had the flu and was feeling terrible, and it was like maybe doing a playoffs, and he still came out and he had an amazing game, feeling terrible. He sort of like just made it through and did what needed to be done. And then Kobe Bryant famously, I think, like tore his Achilles mid-game and still stayed on and shot the 3 free throws, and then walked off, to go get fixed up and have surgery. Then it was out, right? But this idea that like, look, shit happens. Like sometimes you won't sleep so well. Or you might have something that would, like you eat too much or you eat something that was weird. And it's like, if you let that just be like everything has to be, it's the control thing. It's like, if my sleep has to be perfect and my Garmin has to say perfect, my HRV has to be perfect so that I can have a perfect run. It's like, that is super fragile.
Yeah, actually, as a good example of this, a few weekends ago. So I live in London, but I've got cousins here, originally South African, but live here. And they're some of my best friends. I said at the start of this podcast, home life, family life's pretty tough at the moment. So I don't mind touching on that in a moment. But my cousins are like my people. And they'd been organizing a dinner for us to go around to one of the cousins' houses. And I had already given my dates based on running. Mm-hmm. Because I thought I was maybe running in the Hackney half and I didn't want to go on the Friday night because I need to sleep and all of these things. So I already messed around with the dates to give the date that would suit me best. I didn't end up running the Hackney half anyway. And I went to my cousin last Friday night and I had quite a bit of running to do on the weekend. So normally I wouldn't drink at all and I don't really drink much anyway. But I actually decided, you know what, I'm just going to have a few drinks and just have a fun night because there's so much going on at home. I'm not in the best way mentally. And sure enough, my HRV overnight was terrible. My resting heart rate was terrible. I had a long run to do in the morning. And guess what? It was fine. Yeah. And I actually said to Dale, I would never normally... He said, it was actually quite nice in a way to see you just having such a good time with your family. Mm-hmm. I said, I weighed it up. I decided I need this night. These are my people. It's not often, in London to make a plan to get together. I am just going to have a few drinks and talk bullshit with my cousins and just have a real laugh and, get to bed sort of 1:30 in the morning, 2 in the morning, which is unheard of for me.
Yeah.
And get up early and go for my run. And so what?
Yes.
And actually, on balance, like the laughing and the fun was more important than some boring run, Yeah. So, and your watch does tell you that you've, dire sleep, no sleep, terrible HRV, resting heart rates, gone up 6 points. So sure, it shows you that alcohol does do that to you, but that doesn't mean that you can't, that you should sacrifice everything. So that's another example of the sort of good and bad of running, I guess. So letting go a little bit and saying, you know what, it's fine. This is probably more important for me.
And it's so interesting. We all know, like, there's the whole joke, which is like a third of your runs are going to be great. A third of your runs are going to be meh, like average. And a third of your runs are going to be bad, awful, right? And we kind of all know that, and I sometimes try to remind myself that. But it also doesn't correlate. Like, I've had some great runs on like so little sleep. And when I started, I felt like crap in the morning, or I wasn't really up for it. And then I have a great run. And I've had other times where I've like felt like it was everything. And then the runs sucked,
Yeah.
It's like, there's no perfect correlation. And it's amazing what you can sort of do. I like that phrase, let it go. And so with my one there, it's like, so, we had the sort of big sort of blow up is too strong word, but it was a lot like, sort of a big, come to Jesus kind of moment and discussion on things and choices and prioritizations. And in that moment that I stopped and reflected, and I was like, okay, I'm like, it doesn't make sense to keep doing exactly what I'm doing right now. So like I was doing 75 hard and suddenly that felt frivolous. Like it was, I was doing it in order to have like mental, to try to like, be more mentally, I believe mental toughness is a perishable skill. I think doing things that you can sort of build up that self-confidence and like that you can get shit done, but it can be too rigid. There can be times they're rigid and there are times it makes sense to push through. And I think I was on day 72 or 73, Alice, of 75.
Oh, really?
But I was like, that day I was like, you know what? It does not make sense to like do what was the planned second workout. And it was my wife's birthday. And I was like, I took Henry to the store and he picked out a cake for her because he wanted to pick out a cake. Luckily, he initially was going to pick an awful cake that I knew she would hate, but luckily
you give him some prompts.
But I was like, I'm not sure that
Did you ask some good coaching questions to help him choose something better?
I'm not sure. Do you think Mommy really wants the trifle? I don't think she wants trifle. And then he was like, "Oh, there's a carrot." And then I was like, "I know she loves carrot cake." I was like, "That's a great idea, carrot cake. That looks like a good cake." So anyway, but then it was one there. It's like to the point with you and the family. It was like, and that was going to be for the next day anyway for the birthday. But it's like we just got the cake, and like I don't know, cake lasts a long time. Like we don't like. So then it's like, well, she's like, Henry was like, can we have some cake tonight? And so he's like, yeah, I'd like to have the cake tonight. So we had some cake, and it's like, you know what, I'm having a piece of cake with the family because like. Sometimes some things are more important, there's
That's
like
it.
the rigidity of like, no, I'm not going to have cake as well because it's like, that was something that was not on the plan.
Said I'm not doing it. And it would have been wrong to sort of be like, I have to wait 2 days and I need to go for my second, like I'm going with my weighted vest right now because I said I would.
Suddenly none of that felt,
it's a tough one.
suddenly none of that felt, that just it no longer felt that, and it wasn't just like
a different perspective.
It was a different perspective, and it wasn't just the like ego, weak, I'm tired, I don't want to do it, I want to find an excuse. It was like, whoa, this is a bit of a crutch today, right? Like forcing this is really not aligned with goals, like my life goals.
Sorry.
No, life goals.
I was just
what
thinking,
I care about. Yeah,
I'm going to go and see the sports physician next week. There's a chance there's something going on in my leg. And I'm out again. It's in the back of my mind. The panic that I'm feeling that running might be taken from me again, it's huge because, for me, I haven't had my own kids, but Dale has got teenage kids and I've, through a series of events that were kind of not really planned or won't go into it, I am a full-time stepmother to teenagers. And it's been very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm failing on all fronts there. I've also put a lot of my personal life on pause, my business, that side of things. I've got my own challenges to deal with. I've had my own mental health struggles. And so running has become like, I have to run and I have to run well. So I think one of the reasons, we spoke, I think it was last week or the last few weeks about Berlin and London not performing as well as I should have, and my heart rate's so high and I'm so anxious. And I think part of it is because this is so important to me now.
Yeah.
Because everything else feels like it's kind of falling apart. What's happening to me, what's happened to my life. I've become the thing of fairy tale books where you've got the wicked stepmother. You know, I feel like I'm that person. How did this happen to me? You know, what's going on? But boy, no, I have to run the sub-3 come hell or high water. And I feel like I'm running out of time because I'm getting older, and how long can I keep this up? And, you know, all of this panicky feeling. And so, you know, well, as we're having this conversation, I'm just thinking, and now if next week the sports physician tells me, no, you do have a stress fracture or a stress response, you're out. Like the feeling of anxiety that I'm getting from that you're going to take this thing from me and what's going to set me back again. And I'm never going to get to my goals. It's, shows me that, is it also becoming a bit unhealthy? Is that why I'm getting stress fractures?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Part of it, all of this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So because I've got so much stress and I'm not coping with it, and then my sleep, and then my nutrition isn't as good as it should be, and I'm overtraining and I'm pushing myself too hard, all of those things, I think running, but outwardly everyone's saying, oh, you're so fit and
I know,
so
isn't
disciplined.
That crazy? Yeah.
Well done. And oh, you're so fast and all of these things. And you're like,
well, Alice,
yeah,
the whole punchline, you know, is like, this is where it's all headed, is like, you're just destined to become a trail and ultra runner, right? You know, this is the
I'm destined to be a cyclist.
Yeah,
even worse.
Even worse.
I'm thinking of getting a bike. Before I let you carry on, my friend, I think I've shared before, who had this second set of stress fractures, and that was what you remember, she and I both had stress fractures around the same time. Then she got a second set. She had to pull out of London, and that's when my symptoms came back, and I was really worried. So she got a bike. She fell off a bike and she broke her elbow. I shouldn't laugh. And she's also has a lot of exercise requirements, like has to exercise. So she's stuck on an indoor bike cycling now. It's
like, I mean, that is like, the fact that you can have an indoor, I think, by the way, you know, having an indoor bike is like, that is actually good. Like I think the Peloton's okay, but it's like some engagement. I think the Zwift is the next level.
Yeah, it's
but
good.
Having something like that you can actually have an outlet that you can do, that is very powerful, I think. But the thing I was saying about the trail running, and I sort of joke, but it's like, you know, you said it, and I think the lesson there is like, let it be or let it go. And, you know, I'm already thinking, I got the Beatles song stuck in my head right now, is which, by the way, I'm fairly sure that song was written when they were feeling like shit, and they didn't know what, they were in the studio and they were tired and they like didn't want to be there, and it was like a whole, like, there was all the conditions to not do anything productive.
Let It Be or Let It Go?
Let It Be, I think, was the song. Let It Be was the song. I think you said Let It Go, but it's like Let It Be was the song, I think. But anyway, I think they wrote that song that came out of like a sort of a horrible session, and like not well, like nothing was adding up well. I'll try to dig it out, the example there. But the thing, it's interesting with that one, and I say it more in joke, but it's well known in the sort of the trail zeitgeist, if that's the thing. Like, the thing is that often people come to the trail at that sort of point that you are experiencing, where it's like, it's a point where they can, what is the thing they enjoy is the feeling of, most of us, we actually like running. Like, there's a sense of like moving your body and actually running, like that whole motion of running, and then breathing, and then some endorphins, and then, you know, pushing and having moments of like, you know, be able to like push hard, and then moments of feeling in flow. And I think it's kind of an interesting one where the trail, like all the things that we try to control, like a lot of them go to the wayside. Their pace no longer matters, because the footing could be all sorts of going up versus down. Everything doesn't matter. And so it's sort of the idea of constant pacing, negative splitting times. It's interesting that it's sort of like, but it doesn't have to be that. You talked, I think, last time about like, was it the 3 Peaks is something that's still on your list? You know, sometimes, you know, I've been thinking a lot lately, because I never signed up for the race in Wales, because I didn't know exactly how everything was shaking out. So I don't actually have a signed up race on the calendar. And there's something about like, what is the thing that I'm going to do that's something to put the fitness to work? Because I have been training pretty well, and also something to continue to work towards that also is like aligns, but is fun. Right? Is it like, it's sort of like, how can I like, and this was part of like going back to a race I've done before, where suddenly I'm like, oh, but I want to beat the time I did before. Like even on a
I
trail
see,
run,
yeah.
which there's so much variety. And it's like, that's where I'm sort of like, well, what could be that mountain adventure that could be something where like, no one cares what the time is. I don't care what the time is. That's what's got me in my
Something
head.
new, something different.
Something new, something
to
different. So when do you
grip
meet
your
your
imagination?
Yeah, so when are you meeting with your
Next week,
specialist?
Tuesday, and then hopefully get a scan at some stage. I did look at my diary. I don't see how I'm going to get it in, but I will try and get that scan. I think I just want peace of mind.
Yeah.
And if it is something, then I just need to know and deal with it. I've had problems in that leg for a long time, so I kind of just need to get to the bottom of it. I think what happens when you have an injury like a stress fracture is, a lot of people tell me this, is you lose confidence in knowing what's a problem and what's not. Because for so long, my physio and I thought it was, oh, it's tendons, it's muscles. It went on and on and on and on. And eventually when I saw the sports physician, he was like, no, these are stress fracture symptoms. I'm like, my gosh.
Yeah.
I've been running and running for months like this. Now I get one twinge. I'm like, oh, what is this? And if I think about it, I've got twinges on the other side.
Yeah.
But I'm not paying any attention to them. But you give me one jolting sharpness or twinge, you know, like a little electrical feeling in your ankle or around there. And I'm like, oh, this is it. It's back. So anyway, I will definitely report back. Probably not next week when we record, but the week after that we'll know.
That sounds,
So
that makes sense. It's interesting. A couple of things that come to my mind. I've been in this past week trying to reconnect with just a simple gratitude practice of just like, 2 or 3 things I'm grateful for in the morning. And sometimes it's being grateful for the setback or the adversity and like what comes out of that and what it's like either forcing or what it's leading to or catalyzing. But I think on one side, there are so much to be grateful for, in like what you have and you run. And like even things like you said, like you got, if worst comes to work, you have the Zwift bike. Like that's pretty cool that you have that as an option. And you've got Monty to go walk, which is also pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But it's not to compare against others and feel bad. But like when you see like so many people are struggling, like Megan Roach just had a thing with her heart again, which sort of looks like it's like the end of any. And she has such talent that, you could see her being the best in the world at the longer ultra, which she's never really done. And that's so heartbreaking. And then seeing her go through that with such courage and
for someone like her, you wonder how much of it's her identity, their podcast,
their podcast,
all
their
of that.
coach,
It must
everything.
be huge.
Yeah,
it must be huge.
And like we all have that thing of untapped potential or unreached potential. And then, the Katie Scheid, I saw, pulled her name off the Hard Rock list because she was on, as the defending champion, and she was going to be throwing down with Courtney DeWalter and Tara Dower. And, she's got some mysterious injury that's been going on since like, the autumn and still hasn't been fixed. And she's like the best of the best and sponsored and going to the best research places in Europe, science and medical research athletics centers. And they still haven't figured it out. And you're like, wow, like so many people are struggling with this. Like, this is sort of like, it's like, and some people have it worse than us, not to like, think worse for them and better for us. But it's like, it's fascinating that like, kind of the journey of being a runner, right? Is like injuries and body and aging and setbacks. It's part of it.
It's part of it. Okay. So we want, hopefully anyone listening, if you've made it this far, great. Please send us your listener questions.
Yes,
please do. Reporting back when we next record about this park run combo with my marathon session, and hopefully soon after that, what's going on with my leg.
Yes.
I hope that you have a better week.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then for listeners, if there's anything even if it's not a question, if there's a topic you want us to talk about, we've talked about some random stuff already. There's lots more random. It could be from shoes and socks or nutrition to like how types of training to events and races to, mental games and how we sort of like get ourselves through workouts or races or whatever it might be. Like, let us know your questions. If you're enjoying the podcast, send an episode to another fellow runner that you think might enjoy it. Like, we aren't running ads on this podcast. This is just for fun. But like, if this could be helpful for others, we continue to get little messages from people that say, we love don't listen to your moms or dads or other people who are saying random stuff. Don't
let your parents' negative feedback put you off.
Because, hey, I'm an average runner and this is the podcast I need. We're getting quite a few messages like that, which we love to hear. So share this with someone else who might use it. Obviously, give us a like or subscribe, follow, all that kind of stuff on the podcast stuff. But yeah, we're going to keep showing up each week and we'll keep talking about what's going on in our lives and training. And we love all the questions that keep coming in. Awesome.
Well, good to see you. See you next week.
Good to see you, Alice. See you next week. Bye.